Welcome to Thinking is Contagious. I want to talk a little bit more about this Omicron, um, the business of Omicron at this point, the business of COVID at this point. Uh, I was reading some very interesting information, and because I was trying to find, is there any testing, has the CDC, has the United States, any of the agencies, have they done any testing as to comparing natural immunity uh, to vaccines? And the answer is no, they haven't. Conversely, Israel, some countries have done some studies. Israel has done two very extensive studies. One that's just the largest study ever conducted, exactly on that topic, as to herd or natural immunity from having been exposed to the COVID virus versus vaccinated against the COVID virus. And very interestingly, and the liberals and Dr. Fauci and the administration is quick to tell you, follow the science, follow the science. It's so important to follow the science. Well, we'll follow the science. And that Israeli study showed that natural immunity is actually 27 times stronger than any vaccine. 27 times stronger than any vaccine. I think that's quite interesting. I think that's quite telling. And I think that's something that you're never going to see. Is never going to see the light of day. And the reason, after hearing that, I know the reason why the CDC hasn't done any studies either as to this question. And the reason for this is very simple. Because if you really believe that that is true, then what sense does it make if you're trying to stop this pandemic, this mass across the board vaccination effort? What this study tells me is that the only people that needed to be vaccinated against this disease were people with compromised immune systems or comorbidities, the extremely elderly, people with pre-existing some type of condition that could be exacerbated by being exposed to the COVID virus. The rest of the world would have been far better off to have been exposed to the disease. And guess what? I don't think that we would have seen Delta as prevalent as it was. We definitely would not have seen, I don't want to say definitely, I feel we would not have seen Omicron as prevalent as we have seen. And the reason is precisely what we have discussed before. COVID has become a cottage industry, a business, unfortunately. And this is not in any way, shape, or form to diminish the 800,000 Americans that have died from the disease or the millions of people that have died throughout the world. On the contrary, what this is an attempt to have mitigated that. If this was treated fairly, maybe a lot less people would have died from the disease. And the business aspect of it every day is made more and more apparent. See Biden today speaking about 500 million at-home tests that he's sending out to the federal government. The billions of dosages of vaccines that the United States government has purchased. And here's the key word: the United States government has purchased. The United States government has no money other than the money it takes from you and I. So all this money that's been purchased, all this money that's been used, to make these purchases is our taxpayer dollars. And my premise is, based on that study, what I said with the Israeli study, and common sense tells me that how much of that vaccination is really required. How many people are there really that fall into the category of those that truly need to be vaccinated. Then we have Biden also come out, and let's really think about what I just said. How does that not tell you in your mind clearly that Joe Biden and the administration and many of today's politicians are pandering to Big Pharma? It's pretty clear to me. It's very clear to me that if natural herd immunity had been allowed to take hold, and again, I'm not saying not to vaccinate those most in need, those most susceptible, most vulnerable. And I'm not saying that those people who, even if they weren't vulnerable, said, you know what, I do want to get vaccinated. God bless you, go get vaccinated. Anybody who wants to get vaccinated should get vaccinated. But this mandate thing, all it has done is perpetuated or extended, not perpetuated, extended this COVID outbreak and made it last longer. And believe me, this is not by coincidence, because the longer that they can keep the people on pins and needles and saying, looking to the government and saying, we don't know what's going, please help, please send this, please send us that. As long as that is on the board, then the status quo remains as to control of population and the power of these politicians, which is far greater than it need be in any free country. We are watching a corpse in Joe Biden issue and utter the words of the tail that's wagging the dog, and delivering messages to this country that are not in the best interest of this country. And it's not going to stop until we put a stop to it. And the only way we put a stop to it is with our vote. This has got to be the last time that we allow the government to interfere with our lives, to shut down, not basically, but they did. They shut down our economy. The world shut down their economy, but we shut down the greatest capitalist machine in the world for no need. No need. And you hear Biden now coming on TV say, we're going to keep our schools open and kids should be vaccinated. No, they shouldn't be vaccinated. Vulnerable children should be vaccinated. Kids are not going to. This Omicron thing is just, it's being, yes, there's a lot of people getting Omicron. Yes, it's a virus. It's a flu. It's an influenza. And you know what? Many vaccinated, double and triple vaccinated people are getting Omicron. But I don't know anyone, not a one, people who have had COVID that have gotten Omicron. I don't know of any. I mean, I'm sure there are, but I don't know of any. What I'm seeing is the people that I'm seeing, the high profile people that I'm seeing that are coming out and saying that they tested positive for COVID are people who had already been vaccinated for COVID. And to take that to a further point, a further step, if the vaccine is so great and it's so bulletproof, these vaccines, why does Biden come out today and said it is our patriotic duty to get vaccinated? Why? Why is that our patriotic duty to get vaccinated? Why is it our patriotic duty to go against what we believe is our basic principles as a free nation, as a free population, as to what to do with our bodies and whether we want to take a vaccine or don't want to take a vaccine? I don't take the flu vaccine. I've never taken the flu vaccine because I don't want to, because I believe that it really doesn't prevent much of anything from happening. So I don't see how this patriotic duty, I don't see how the claim that this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, that the unvaccinated somehow are the bad people that are spreading this virus and are responsible for the continuation of the virus being around and the various stages that it has morphed into. I don't see how that's correct or accurate. It contradicts the very premise of how important it is to be vaccinated. Because if you are vaccinated and you really believe that this vaccine is so bulletproof, then why are you so worried about the people who aren't vaccinated? They're just harming themselves. Why do you think that that would harm you if you're vaccinated and you believe the vaccine is bulletproof? Why are you worried about it? And by the way, the science says that even if you're vaccinated, it doesn't mean you can't spread it. And they do spread it with vaccinated people. Read the Israeli study, the first one especially. And you will see that this correct handling of this would have been a select portion of the population vaccinated, those who fall into the criteria for who should really get it, the requirement of who should get it. And the vast majority should have let it play out. People gotten sick and recouped. 99% of the people, I think it is, under the age of 65 or 60, I'm not quite certain, with no compromised immune systems or comorbidities, 99% of the people are fine. Don't require hospitalization. And a fraction of those are who died. As a matter of fact, I read, and this is dated, granted, this was probably when there was 250, 300,000 deaths. No, I think it was 400. Yeah, it was 400,000 deaths. When there was 400,000 deaths, I read that the CDC said that on death certificates where COVID was the only cause of death, the only issue causing a death, out of the 400,000, there was only 6%, 24,000. Now, one is too many for me. Again, I'm not downplaying that death, but 24,000. And the rest were all tied into comorbidities and issues, health issues, okay? So COVID has become, again, like I said before, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Schumer, Pelosi, Warren, the whole of the left, with this push for the vaccines, they have made Pharma, Big Pharma, a whole lot of money. A whole lot of money. And just like when the unions decided that, hey, we bankrupt private industry, what can we do to make sure that we get a hold, get our grips, become vampires into a system that will never run out of blood, and they decided to go into the government, unionize the government, because they know the government will never run out of money because all they do is ask us for more. Just like that was done, you have the same thing here with the vaccines and the use of government money. These big pharma said, hey, we're going to make a windfall like it's never been seen. Let's plug in. Let's plug in to the government. Let's get them to buy these vaccines. Let's tell them how terrible this disease is. Let's tell them how this is going to kill everyone on the face of the earth. And let's get them to buy our vaccines with tax dollars. And that's exactly what they've done with tax dollars. So, why, take your precautions, eat right, vitamins, exercise, try to keep, your weight under control. I mean, as best you can, but wash your hands. Don't take stupid risks. If you want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. I'm not worried that the vaccine's going to cause some terrible side effects. I don't think that's the case. I do think the vaccine has dragged this thing out way, way longer than it would have if it would have been allowed to be played out the way it could have been. All right. Thank you for your time. Yeah, have a good day, and hope you got something out of this.